quilters, it is week 3 of our framed Pinwheels quilt along. We are using this framed Pinwheels pattern by Missouri Star Quilt Company. And for this week, we are going to trim our half square triangles. So I'm going to show you what I like to do. And as always, if there is another technique you like better, just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. I will tell you why I do what I like to do and why, but I cannot tell you what works best for you. So I personally prefer to press the half square triangles first, press them open first, and then square them. And my reasoning for that is because I feel like, for me, I get better results, more accurate results, if I press them first and then square them, as opposed to square them first and then press them and run the risk of distorting the shape of my trimmed half square triangle. Now, an advantage of squaring them first before you press them would be that I suppose it might save you a little time. So first I'm going to show you how I square these, and then I will show you a technique for squaring these before you press them open. And one potential disadvantage of squaring them first before you press them open would be that a lot of people might think that they may need a special ruler to do that, but you don't. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, if you want to square these first with a special ruler, then just go ahead and do that. Do whatever works best for you, but I'm not going to show that today. I'm just going to show how to square them first with a regular ruler. So first, we're going to square this one that has already been pressed open. So you're going to take your ruler. Square ruler just has to be bigger than the half square triangle, and it needs to have a 45-degree line on it. So if you have a nice square half square triangle already and it just needs to be trimmed, you can take this 45-degree line on your ruler, line it up with the seams, and we are trimming these half square triangles to 2.75. So you will just find the 2.75 line vertically and the 2.75 line horizontally, and you'll line each of those lines up with the side of your half square triangle. So, alignment points. I have this 2.75 line and this 2.75 line lined up with the edges of the half square triangle. And I have my 45-degree angle line from my ruler lined up with that seam in my half square triangle. Then I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and I'm going to trim the side and the top. All right, so that one's all trimmed. And I do have this little dog ear here. I will go ahead and take care of that now. So there's that one. But let's say your half square triangle is a little wonky and you don't have a side that's nice and square. And that's fine. You can deal with that too. We're just going to take that same diagonal line it up with that seam. But instead of having the 2.75 line here and the 2.75 line here in line with the edges, we're going to have it within those edges. And you'll have that within the edges on both sides. So I've got some clearance to the side and the top, and then my 2.75 line is into the triangle a little bit. So once I get those lined up, I'm going to trim the top and the side. Sorry, it's hard for me to do this while I'm trying not to knock my camera over. Okay, so once that's done, we're going to take that and we're going to flip it. So we've got this top corner here. We're going to flip that to the opposite side. So now we can line up that 2.75 inch line this way and the 2.75 inch line this way with this two sides that we just squared off. All right, and once you get those aligned, your 45-degree line on your ruler should be lined up nicely with that seam. So then we'll trim the top and the sides. So you have a nice square, half square triangle. And, you know, trimming it from both sides like we did with this one, as opposed to just one side like this one, does take a little longer, but it's got your dog ears trimmed all the way. And if that's what you need to do to get it nice and square, that is going to make it a little bit easier on you when you go to piece your quilt. Now, let's show you a way that you can trim this triangle without pressing it open first and without having to use a specific half square triangle ruler. So we're going to take this regular ruler that I have, and this is just a dry erase marker. It'll wipe right off of my ruler when I'm done. And I'm going to make a line at the 2.75. I'm just going to kind of make my little dot there at the 2.75 on both directions. And I have this seam sewn in black so you can see it better. So you can see my little red dots I just made. And I'm going to take this ruler and I'm going to line those two red dots that I made. So I'm squaring these down to 2.75. So whatever you're squaring it down to, that is where you want to make those dots. So I am lining those dots that I made on the 2.75 inch line up with this seam line. So let me just kind of bring this closer so you can see that. So you can see I'm lining the seam line up with the red dot on both sides. And once you get that lined up, and you can use any color dry erase marker, I just so happen to have grabbed a red one, but that's basically lining up the 2.75 inch mark on this side and the 2.75 inch mark on this side with that seam line for that block. And I've just got the dry erase marks on there just to make it so I can see it a little bit better. So now that I've got that, we're going to trim both sides. And you will still have to trim your dog ears with this, but once I open that up, I should have a half square triangle that is squared off to 2.75, and looks really good. I do. So now that that's done, to do it this way without a half square triangle ruler, you will still have to trim your dog ears, but you won't have to buy a special ruler. And if you have a special ruler, that will have a little slot in it to make it easier to trim off your dog ears. But you can try whichever method works best for you.